Dr. Dimple Jangda, the founder of Prana Healthcare Center. During my profession, I've met countless number of people from around the world, and I've had the luxury or the privilege of hearing their journey and their story. I'm going to share with you the story of this little brown girl who came to me, and with her permission, we have named her as Porcupine in the story. Now, this Porcupine was a successful investment banker. She was going about the jungle, minding her own business. She was globe-trotting. She was living business class in expensive hotels that she called home. She had everything, a big fat bank balance, an envious lifestyle, and a superb wardrobe. She thought she had it all, until this moment. She came face to face with this beautiful white cloud-like divine being in the forest, the corporate jungle. The dove looked at her with kindness. It was a dove. The porcupine looked close and she was like, okay, this is a dove. The dove looked at the porcupine with kindness. Hello, my friend. The porcupine was taken aback because she was not used to kindness. She said, what do you want? Why are you looking at me like that? The dove said, well, I came to see you, to hear you. How are you doing? The porcupine said, no one's ever asked me that. The dove said, how do you feel? Are you happy? The porcupine was taken aback. No one's ever asked her that question, are you happy? Are you happy? It sounded like such an amazing question. The porcupine actually teared up a little. Are you happy? What do you mean, are you happy? The dove said, look at your spikes. Beautiful, but why do you carry them? The porcupine said, well, you know what? I have this fragile, soft, delicate skin that I need to protect. Everybody is a foe. I don't trust anybody. I would never let love and friendship weaken me, so I carry these spikes so that I can warn predators off. I don't want anyone to abuse me. The dove said, abuse? Tell me more. The porcupine was in a flow. The porcupine said, you know what? When I was a little girl, I was actually born in a low middle class family where money was difficult to come by. When I was 8 months old, I was attacked by a kitten. I was found in a pool of blood. My parents were in a constant state of conflict. There was financial conflict. There was conflict between them. They didn't like each other. They would be angry. They would be projecting their hate and their disappointment onto me a lot of times. I became a punching bag in that marriage. My parents would trash me over little reasons. One day I started bleeding from their trashing. And the porcupine paused. You see what happened? Every time I went through some pain, it became like a thorn in my flesh. And I kept it, I held on to it because there was generations of trauma that was being passed on to me. And I had to hold on to those thorns because it was my duty now to hold on to that trauma on behalf of my ancestors. Those thorns were becoming thicker and stronger and they turned into spikes, and now they're my defense mechanism. Nobody comes close to me because of my defense mechanism now. As I grew up, the porcupine continued the story. The conflict in my mind started translating into conflict in my body. I started having diseases. I started having tumors in my body, which was luckily benign, and then I had to undergo 4 surgeries for that. By the age of 18, I had undergone 4 surgeries. I had epilepsy, I had fits, I had migraine. I hated my body. It was covered with scars from all those surgeries. You know what that hate did for my body? It attracted more hate. At the age of 21, 22, my family had made enough wealth at the cost of mental health. One of my uncles committed suicide to depression. Nobody noticed. He was suffering. Left 3 kids behind, orphaned. 2 years later, another uncle died from heart attack and depression, leaving behind 2 more kids orphaned. Nobody noticed he was going through depression. 4 weeks later, my father was in the hospital getting an open heart surgery done. He was fighting for his life, and I was scared. 3 days after his surgery, his mother died. This is a true story. His mother died 3 days later, and we couldn't tell my father that his mother is no more. He couldn't attend the funeral. When he came back from the hospital, he had lost his desire, his reason, his purpose to live. He had no reason to live anymore. A few days later, he brought a random stranger into the house and he told me, I'd like you to marry him. The porcupine thought to herself, and she related the story to the dove. It was a small sacrifice my father was asking of me. If I get married, it would give my father a few more years to live. It would give me a reason to cheer him up. It would give him a reason to live. So I decided to get married, and guess what? All that hate I had for my body translated into an abusive marriage. There was all kinds of abuse in the marriage. There was dowry harassment, mental abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse. I was constantly under the threat of death. I was scared of my ex-husband. I would stop ironing clothes when he's in the house. I wouldn't go to the balcony. I wouldn't go to the terrace because I was scared he would just drop me from there. And nobody would know how I died. I wanted to live to tell my story. I went to my parents and I asked them to help me. They refused. They refused to take me back. They refused in many words, and that day I got trashed again. I had physical scars on my body, mental and emotional scars that would take several years to heal. And you know what those scars became? Those scars became spikes on my body, and I carry them with pride right now because I earned those scars. I earned those spikes. The dove looked at the porcupine. But why do you have to carry them as spikes? Have you seen a tigress? She wears her stripes with pride. She earned it too. But there's no pain in her stripes. Your spikes are hurting you. Are you in pain? The porcupine stopped. Nobody had ever asked her, are you happy? Are you in pain? A river flew through her eyes. A river of tears came out of her eyes, and she cried and cried and cried all night, and she was in so much pain. That strong emotion had to come out in the form of tears, and it came out of her eyes. She flowed a river of tears that night. She cried all night while the dove looked at her kindly the whole night. The next morning, when the tears had dried up, the porcupine looked at the dove. You are so beautiful and happy. I want to be like you. Help me. The porcupine said in a feeble voice, and then louder, help me. Help me. And the dove looked at her with kindness. Do you want to fly? The porcupine said, yes. Help me. I want to be free of this pain. I don't want to feel this pain anymore. I don't want to feel these spikes in my flesh anymore. I don't want to feel the thorns in my flesh anymore. I don't want to hold the trauma that my generations passed on to me. Help me. The dove said, I'm going to share with you 7 secrets that's going to help you become me. Secret number 1. Take time off every day to figure out who you are. And this is how you do it. Wake up in the morning, 45 minutes before sunrise if you can. Anytime between 2 to 6 a.m. Find a clean spot. Place your fingers on the middle of your forehead. This is your third eye. This is where your intellectual capacities come from. Create some empty space here. Meditate for 5 minutes, 10, 20, 40, 60 minutes. Meditate as long as you can. This will allow you to create an empty space so that you can come up with better ideas. And then place your fingers on your eyes and express gratitude for everything that has happened in your life till date. All the good and bad events contributed towards you becoming who you are. Can you imagine the miracles in the universe? The Big Bang Theory, the evolution of humankind. All of those miracles allowed you to live this life, live this moment. The entire universe is within you and you are within the universe. The porcupine was overwhelmed. That was such an amazing thing to be told, that you matter. Meditation it is then. I will meditate. The porcupine meditated, and the porcupine expressed gratitude for everything she had received, all the good and bad moments which shaped her personality and made her who she is, the education she received, the infrastructure, the government support. The family gave birth to her despite all their trauma. They did not have time to heal their trauma. They projected their fear and disappointment, but they still gave her a good life because they're kind people, her parents. They're kind people and they run NGOs, they're good people, they're good human beings. The porcupine expressed gratitude. The dove said, place your folded hands on your lips and let's manifest what we want. May I speak the truth. May what I speak become the truth. May my manifestations become reality. And may I become the kalpavruksha, the wishing tree of my own life. But remember one rule, when you manifest, do not have expectations because that is going to lead to what is called frustrations. Between reality and expectations is a huge gap. Between reality and expectations lies frustrations, and you don't want that. Instead, marry your manifestations with gratitude. The universe loves gratitude. The universe will reward you with more things to be grateful for when you express gratitude. It leads to what is called contentment, peace, happiness in life. The porcupine could feel that happiness in her. She was beginning to feel light. And you know what happened magically at that point in time? A few spikes had become soft and fallen off her. It fell to the ground. The porcupine was beginning to feel light and happy, and she said, you know what? I want to take flight. The dove said, remember to apply kindness in all your desires. Make sure that anything you manifest in life has kindness and compassion, empathy, forgiveness and love for everyone. Make sure there's kindness in your heart, in your thoughts, in your actions, in your words, in your deeds. The porcupine tried to take flight, filled up her lungs with air, and she took a little flight and she flew a little off the ground. And bam, she fell on the ground from fatigue and exhaustion. But she was happy. She looked at the dove and said, help me, teach me more. I'm feeling light, the spikes are falling off, I can see the scars, but you know what? I wear these scars like the stripes a tigress wears with pride. Teach me more. The porcupine said, here's a powerful lesson. Never forget what I'm going to say now. This cup here is filled with poison right now. It's the heaviest part of your body, which is refusing to let you fly. You're not able to fly because this is too heavy. Do you know what is in here? It has all those negative memories on those past life that you've lived. You're carrying those memories deep here. The past is nothing but a memory. It doesn't exist. It only exists here because you give it power. The future is nothing but a figment of imagination. It doesn't exist. Tomorrow never comes. The present moment is the only moment that you have, which is why it's called the present. It's a gift. Live in the present moment. Forgive the people who've hurt you, who've broken your heart, who've broken your trust and your confidence in your body, in humanity. Forgive them and trying to let them go. It's time to let them go and set them free because they have no right to live in your head and your heart rent-free. It's time to set yourself free and forgive yourself for the mistakes they did. It's time to stop punishing yourself for their mistakes. It's time for forgiveness. Empty that cup of poison, because only when you empty it will you have space for more kindness, compassion, empathy, forgiveness and love in your life. And when this cup is empty, my dear, fill it up with unconditional self-love and kindness before you learn how to love another person. If you don't know how to love yourself, how is another person going to know how to love you? Fill it up with self-love. And remember, physical love is just satiation for the body. Physical body is just a validation of the love that you express. It is nothing more. Your mental and emotional body needs compassion, kindness, forgiveness, empathy, love and respect from your partner. Your spiritual body is above all of that. It is whole and complete by itself. It doesn't need anything because your spiritual body is pure love by itself. It's part of your God and it's part of my God. It's part of the Creator. And you are the co-creator of this universe. Fill it up with self-love and unconditional kindness for yourself and make sure the cup is overflowing with abundance of it so you have a little bit more to share with this world. My dear, while you do all of this, don't forget to embrace the little child inside of you. As we've grown, we've forgotten who we are. When we were a child, we used to get excited. Our face was filled with joy and wonder when we experienced something new for the first time in our life. A soapy bubble or a puppy-shaped cloud in the sky or a sandcastle or getting wet in the rain for the first time. We've forgotten those little joys. As we grow up, we're so busy paying our bills and taxes, drawing territories around ourselves, which is becoming smaller and tighter, and in the process, you've shrunk as a person. You're busy fighting with your family and siblings over property, building toxic bridges with your friends. You've forgotten who you are. You've forgotten that pure, innocent child that lived inside of you once upon a time. Embrace that child and remember to do something new, something beautiful every single day. Live for yourself. Live in the present moment. Live with kindness and compassion. And do you know what is going to happen at the end of it all? The final tool is Ikigai. You'll find your Ikigai, which is your purpose of life, your reason for living. Ikigai will ask you, what do you love doing? What are you passionate about? What are you good at? What does the world need right now and what is the world willing to pay you for? Find your passion and you will be a different person altogether. The porcupine felt light. Her heart was filled with love and kindness and wonder. She was wondering what she's going to do with this. Her spikes had become soft and they started falling to the ground. Suddenly she had no spikes on her body. Suddenly she was filled with this abundance, kindness and love, unconditional love, and she wanted to share it with the world. She wanted to bottle this unconditional happiness and kindness and she wanted to share it with the world. And this is what she did. She spent a year or two traveling around the world, figuring out her purpose in life, and she discovered that happiness and health go hand in hand. And she filled up this bottle with health, unconditional health, which helps people prevent tragic diseases by investing in their health today. She started a clinic and she started serving people, and every time someone got better and left her clinic, she started feeling better about herself. She was healing. She was healing and she was becoming better, and all through the time the dove was her friend, her companion. And then one day, the dove looked at the porcupine and said, "Have you forgiven everyone? Is it time to take flight?" The porcupine looked deep inside and said, "I forgive my parents, my siblings, my society, my community who didn't stand up for me. I forgive those who abused me physically, mentally, emotionally, verbally, because they did not know what they did. I forgive them. To err is to human, but to forgive is divinity." When the porcupine said those words, light started flowing through her body. She started becoming light in color, almost like a dove. And she took flight. She filled her lungs up with air and she took one final flight and she started reaching up towards the sky, into the clouds, with a message of peace in her beak for the whole world to see, despite all the blood that was shed in her name on that ground. She had nothing but peace to give to the world. When the porcupine returned from her beautiful flight, she saw the whole world from up above the sky. Her heart was filled with so much joy and wonder that she didn't want anything more. If this was her last day on earth, she had no regrets, no guilt. She had nothing but happiness in her heart, peace and bliss. She came down to the ground And she looked at the dove and she wanted to thank the dove for being her spiritual friend, for being her soul family, for being her confidant. And she looked at the dove and said, "Thank you so much for all that you've shared with me. I'm indebted to you." The dove didn't answer back. The porcupine looked closely, went closer, and suddenly the image of the dove started becoming hazy, as if like ripples in the water. When she looked closer, she realized something. All through this time, the porcupine was looking at her own reflection in the water. She was a dove in her own life. She was never a porcupine. She was born a dove, like her grandfather, like her uncle, like all those guardian angels in her life. She was a dove too, but in the process of all that abuse and the inability to forgive, she had become a porcupine. You had become a porcupine. I had become a porcupine. It's time to let go of those fights. It's time to forgive and feel that power of forgiveness. It's time for self-love, unconditional kindness, compassion, empathy, and love that this world deserves and you deserve. You deserve to witness the kindest version of you, and so does this universe. I wish you abundant love and kindness so you may experience the dove inside of you. Thank you.